From Svitek comes a weekly digital series where he shares his insights, concepts, and findings learned during his 15-year journey of working in the entertainment industry. Each lesson offers you a roadmap to overcome the challenges that all artists face on the path to success. Welcome to a Svitek podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Svitek, 360 creative coach, and today I'm joined by a dear friend, Cody Schram. Now, that's obviously not the reason why Cody is joining me today. Cody is a wonderful musician, specifically like hip hop and rap. But as far as our working relationship, he has been the composer for various short films of mine in the past, and now specifically a feature film that I made called Idol. And I know Cody from our soccer playing days at Emerson College. He was a senior when I was a freshman. And maybe this is like a little bit too personal, but I want to start here because I think it shows your character a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. I think for me, I don't know what your experience was like in high school, but I think high school soccer or just high school in general is very like cliquey, and certainly like the seniors didn't really interact with the freshmen. Mm-hmm. And so what was very awesome for me was how tight a bond the soccer group had, and you being the captain of the soccer team, you know, in your senior year, I felt you were very responsible for that sort of tight bond spirit. And I don't know if you even like were aware of that, but like, I don't know, you just had such a big impact on me when I entered, which was really cool.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I don't know if I was consciously doing it. I just like to like for everyone to feel included. To be honest, you know, Emerson, the college, the soccer college experience was very wonderful for me. I've developed some incredible relationships and friendships from those groups of players, yourself included. Coach Jared Scarpacci, you know, and I think it was just an important time for me. It was a way to kind of escape from everything else and be with those guys on the field. And Emerson, you know, having played there and then coached there as well, I sort of got a behind the scenes look at really the type of program it is, and I think why it's so inclusive. You know, I think Emerson is a very creative and unique school, and we get a lot of creative and unique individuals, and it made for a really great educational experience, but then it also translated onto the field as well, where I think people just kind of carried it over onto the team. And so I think I think there genuinely was a bond there where we all felt that, you know, besides sort of the creative ventures we wanted to accomplish in school, being together on the soccer field was important.
Do you feel like that bond was started because of the creativity? Because I mean, for me, it was amazing that everyone, even like the marketing guys, right? Like the farthest you ever got was the people in marketing, which really isn't that far out of the entertainment field. And I thought that was so amazing because, you know, other schools you have like businessmen, scientists, whatever, and like obviously you can form friendships, but this was like on a whole new level to me. And I look at like even your work, you worked with like Will Knox, and you know, you guys collaborated on a song, and then I believe it was Bucho that did the music video for that. You know,
exactly. Yeah.
The song's called Mankind.
Yep.
Like it was, that to me was just so cool that everyone was kind of working on each other's stuff in that way.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, Will Knox went to Berkeley because we had that connection as well. You know, so it wasn't just the Emerson community. It was the Berkeley and Mass Art as well. And you know, again, I don't know if it comes down to creativity, but I think, you know, a lot of the players were just sort of in the same mindset. This is a collaborative environment, whether you're in the studio or on the field, and you know, everyone can be a part of that. And it was a really cool, unique experience for sure.
Yeah. So I want to start with your music, because I use you as a composer, but that's not primarily like, that wasn't like your passion, right? Necessarily, just your passion's like writing music, right? And
yes.
Would it also be fair to say poetry?
Yes, for sure.
Um, so can you kind of, where did that passion come from? Because like, I mean, you know, for especially like it was always interesting to me. Like people saw you on the soccer field, and you're like kind of this. You were this you know, nose to the grindstone kind of guy. Like so, some people looked at you as a tough guy. But then you like hear your lyrics and read, you know, read the songs themselves, and you're like, wow, this guy's really deep.
um, yeah, so to go back, I've been writing rhymes since I was about 10. Um, I, grew up with 90s hip hop and fell in love with it immediately. And soon started writing it just on my own. And that just has carried on since then. I'd write raps. I write, spoken word poetry. A lot of times I don't write to a beat. I just kind of write in a very poetic style, I guess. That's just how I was influenced and the way my mind works, the direction my mind goes. Yeah, so that's definitely been a passion of mine. Adding in music, sort of kicked off in college, actually collaborating with people and whatnot. And I started to create beats and whatnot. But for sure, my passion and my primary focus has always been the writing itself.
Is there is there like any theme to most of the stuff that you do, right? Or like, you know, and this could be in hindsight, right? You can always kind of, as an artist, at least I feel, when you start to see your work, you're like, oh, this is like a motif that's happening throughout. Has that happened for you?
Yeah, I think so. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what my songs are about, but I think in general, I tend to have some sort of social commentary, maybe political commentary. A lot of it is just about me and how I'm feeling and how I'm trying to navigate the world around me. Even if I'm not directly referencing myself, you know, my feelings and my perspective definitely creeps in there, and I'm just trying to. I use it as an expression, as an escape, as a way to just try to understand the world around me.
Mm-hmm.
That's really how my thoughts and feelings kind of come out. It's sort of in this rhyme form, this poetic form. That's how I best understand things, I guess.
What about now? Have you been, because it's almost interesting, like it's a time where there's a lot, and in a way, like everyone's saying, like, you know, you have to utilize this time, but at the same time, for me at least, I'm finding it very difficult to put out work, just because, like, I don't know, there's just this weight on everyone's shoulder of like there's just so much to life, and I don't know, it's hard to be creative right now for me.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And it goes in waves for me. I happen to have been writing a lot lately. I have some new music I'm working on that I'm really excited about. And but having said that, one of the songs I'm working on, in fact, is sort of about the stress of being anxious and having anxiety and not being able to sleep and trying to process everything.
Yeah.
So I guess the way I'm trying to break through that block that you're sort of referring to is by writing.
Yeah.
So, like you said, I'll go through periods where I'm just not feeling creative. It's hard to be positive about things right now.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I'm not still writing and trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah. And before I forget, like, you mentioned possibly having this music come out more, and like, what's the best place to access your past work and possibly future work?
Let's see. I have a SoundCloud. I put it all on Instagram. I put it all on my portfolio, and I can send you the
Yeah.
URLs, the links for those if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put it in the description box. That way people can just click right through.
Yeah, that's usually where I put it.
Awesome. Um, you know, also to speaking of your Instagram, would it be fair? Like I've seen some of your photos. Are you getting more into
Mhm.
photography? Has that always been a passion of yours? Uh,
Um, it not always. I wasn't really into it in college. I didn't. I think maybe took a photography class
mhm.
at Emerson, but it wasn't really until afterwards that I started getting into visual media more. Video production led me to kind of graphic design work and photography, um, and it's definitely become another form of expression for me, another passion of mine. Both the photography and then also on my Instagram, I have sort of those photo manipulations, sort of surreal pictures that I do. So again, those just align with the kind of the work I was doing outside through visual media and translated into that form of art as well.
Yeah, and I love those sort of like abstracted pictures. Like, what draws you to that? Because I don't know. Like, I don't think surreal would be like the right term for it, but just for lack of a better term, I think like with everything to a degree, you're kind of drawn into the surreal aspect of it.
Yeah, surreal, abstract. I don't know. I think utilizing some of those, like Photoshop or whatever. It's sort of like writing. It's a blank page, and there's sort of limitless possibilities. So, um, some of it is just sort of a dreamy uh, image. I don't know, a surreal image. Some of it's maybe socially or politically based. It's just another form of expression that's pretty freeing, and there's a lot of opportunity there. So
Yeah.
it's fun to explore.
What is what is your creative process like? I know you mentioned you start with the lyrics and writing that, and for some weird reason, I imagine you like Eminem and 8 Mile, just whatever you like, writing on your hand, writing in a notebook, writing on a napkin.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. I will frequently find old notebooks of rhymes and stuff. More recently, though, I've since we are in this modern age, I have been writing more on my computer than in a notebook.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this with people. Does it feel different? Is it like a different process? It might be. There's something rewarding about writing in a notebook and writing down your thoughts and scratching out and whatnot. But um, the editing process is a lot faster on a computer, and you can get your thoughts out faster, or on my phone. Um, the process itself, I usually start with the lyrics. If and when I attach a song to a beat, I will kind of mold the two together. But usually it's the writing that comes first, just because I'm constantly thinking of rhymes and poems and whatnot. The process is pretty slow, I think. For the most part, I don't necessarily rush myself. I'm sort of a perfectionist when I write, so
Define slow,
I'll
because like, are we talking weeks, months, years?
it could be months or years before I finish a song. I'm usually working on multiple pieces at a time too, depending on just outside influences, whatever it is. But yeah, there's times when it'll take me a week or two to really mold two lines together.
Yeah.
Just because I want it to be perfect, and it means a lot to me that what I'm saying is true to myself and true to form. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's always great when things happen quickly, and I am just everything's flowing, and the creativity is flowing, and I can get through a verse or two in a couple weeks. But there's no time limit. It's just however long it takes, and kind of the song will reveal when it's done. I don't necessarily.
Was that always within you? Because like, I mean, that shows a lot of patience, and I try to live by that mantra. Like, as long as I'm making progress, but again, I can, right now, the only time frame I know of is like quarantine. I don't even know what happened before quarantine.
Oh yeah, I don't even know what day it is today.
Yeah. And so like for me, like it's just I don't know, it's very difficult to have that patience with myself. It's like I should, like why can't I have had all this time? Why haven't I like gotten anywhere closer to at least like a first draft of something? So
Mhm.
how do you cultivate that patience for you, and have you kind of had it, or you like really have to work towards it?
Um, with respect to the writing, I think I've always had that patience. Um, I think the process of writing is so important to me and so fun to me that that's what I enjoy doing. So to rush it just to get through and finish something isn't necessarily the goal for me. It's going through the process of writing and creating something that I'm truly happy with and proud with. So if that takes me 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is, then um, that's just how long it takes. When obviously when collaborating with other people, or when I'm really pressuring myself to get a new song out, or finish a piece, or finish a piece of art or something, then yeah, there is a little bit of that urgency and anxiety that comes from finishing up a project. Um, you know, I'm sure it's the same with you, but it's hard for me to really accept that something's done. I'm always kind of tweaking and wanting to fix it and make it better. And sometimes it's just a matter of saying, you know what, this is good, and let's just let people hear it or see it. I don't know. I mean, do you go through that as well, where you're like, I can just keep working on this and keep working on this?
Uh, Kind of. I don't know. Like I'm the type of person that I just need to let something go eventually. Like,
Yeah.
I've been working on my novel for at this point like 2 years, really hardcore, and it's at the final stages. And there's like just a couple minor things here and there, but if for me, because I go through a mental process, right? So like it's like I've done what I wanted to do mentally with the book. I got out what I needed to. Now this is for somebody else in that way. So it's
Mm,
like I'm doing this for somebody else. And same thing
mm,
applies to movies, where it's like I know this will make it a better movie, but like I've already exercised that muscle in my mind to know that that will be better. But now to actually have to do it, it's like,
mm-hmm.
F this.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
Um, I mean, this is hard to quantify in any stretch of the imagination, but as objectively as you can, like, is the work that you rush out, for lack of a better term, any better or worse than the stuff that takes a little bit longer? And like, how would you even begin to quantify that? I don't even know. Like I said, it's a very
Yeah,
unfair question, but just curious.
yeah. No, it's a good question though, because I think there is something. I think there is something to forcing something to just go out there and live in the world. You know, uh, I ultimately you want people to see your work or hear your work. Although, like I said, the process of making art is extremely important to me. If I'm the only one that hears it, um, what am I really doing? So yeah, I mean I don't know if it's better if I kind of force it. It puts me in a different mind state. There's a little bit of urgency there, and I don't know. It's a hard question. It's a hard
Yeah, I know.
question. I don't know if it's better. I don't know if it's better or worse, but maybe it's important that it gets out there.
Yeah,
So maybe that's the best way to say it.
fair enough. So let's talk about the beats, because we haven't like really talked about the soundscape, and certainly that'll kind of transition us to your compositions.
Hmm.
But yeah, how do you once you have the lyrics, how do you then start to plug in the sound?
Uh, so my process used to be for making beats. It was originally loop based. Taking programs like Logic or Soundtrack or whatever, and Fruity Loops, plugging in loops and making hip hop beats. Because the music I grew up listening to, that was sort of what I was influenced by, that sort of hip hop. Now it's primarily MIDI based, where I play every sound and instrument. So in that, it's a little bit more freeing. I have the ability to sort of dictate the tone and the pace. So, once I sort of have an idea and a song is shaping up, I can sort of figure out, all right, this is, this needs to be a little bit more, I don't know, dissonant here. That's the theme of the song, or that's the direction the writing is going. If that's what I'm doing, and I'll just sort of play with those and start layering and eventually hit on something. It's sort of like the writing, I guess, to be honest. It's, I'm finding layers and trying to mesh them together, and if something works, it works, and I sort of build off of that.
Yeah. How is I'm curious from your perspective, how is like the production of music and also just music itself changed? So the two questions there, right? The final product and then also the production of it.
How has it changed?
Yeah, like how have you witnessed it from, even just back to college days to now? Because I mean, I'd look at technology and just the incremental shift. I mean, like when you and I started, smartphones were like a concept, let alone, a thing. And now like, it's like to think life without a smartphone is like, wait, what?
Yeah. I mean, technology has definitely made it possible for really anybody to make music or make art or make videos, make movies. I think growing up and in college, there were sort of one or two platforms that were considered sort of acceptable for production. And I think with technology and even on our phones, there's apps where you can make a beat or make a sound, and that's cool. I think what's changed for me is that no matter what platform you're using, type of computer you're using, whatever, how much experience you have, you can make good quality art. And I don't know if it was always like that, but I feel like it's like that now. More and more people have access to programs and apps that allow you to do that, and more people are listening now that we have social media on such a broad scale.
Do you think in a way, like one of the things I think about for myself is like, because the accessibility is so widely there, that in a way people aren't like training themselves classically. And when I say classically, I don't mean like, just listening to Beethoven or whatever, but I mean just in general, like kind of looking at the history of music, knowing the fundamentals. And this applies to all art. It can apply to novels. It can apply to graphic design. Doesn't matter. But it's almost like people are just they're not really learning that side. And maybe that's the cynical side of me. Maybe people are learning, but I don't know. It's a question I ask myself often. I don't know if you kind of recognize that in the world.
Well, I think there's definitely, there's endless information out there. And I think we live in a time where everything happens immediately. Immediacy is a thing. So to kind of slow down, teach yourself something, have patience, maybe you don't need it, or I don't know, maybe we don't have the time for it with programs and apps, and in a world that happens so fast. Maybe it's just sort of we have to keep up with it. So maybe there it is sort of like a lost art.
Maybe I mean, I still kind of hold on to the fact that like in order to make art that does resonate beyond just the surface level, or maybe you might get lucky with like a viral moment, let's say, and certainly that's it's not as easy as people say that it is. Kudos to anyone who has gone viral with like a thing. But to me, I'm also interested more in like the career side of it, right? Because if you kind of look at it, like a career in general is going to be 30, 40 years. It's not going to be like, oh, like by the time I'm 22, I have to like have a number one hit. It's like based on whose definition, but I feel like if we listen to, if you're not defining what you listen to, that's kind of becomes the norm. And it's like, since when is that the norm? So I think people just have to be very mindful of what they actually want. Do they want because in a way it's almost saying like they want the fame versus the process,
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case nowadays. And I think it is that process of putting in the effort and taking the time, and you know, uh, I don't know, maybe that's what makes that art stand out a little bit more, be as good as it is when you do take that time, put that effort in. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, it's it's certainly something I'm asking myself more and more. But so I'd love to transition to talk about the your score writing.
Hmm.
Am I the only person you've done score for? I don't even know that answer.
Uh, yeah, because it would have been. Let me think. I think so. Um, yeah, you and Eric, I guess.
Fair enough. Eric Osterholm, who's
Yeah.
another amazing person. Um, I don't know, like, I mean, I remember asking you, but I don't remember how like our interaction went. I'm talking about like the first time. This wasn't, I was still in college. You were out of college and whatnot, and I just kind of asked you like, hey, I have this short film. I think you could. I don't even know why I thought like you could deliver something. I just recognized something, and I was like, you could deliver this. And like, do you even remember that interaction? Like, can you kind of plug in that memory of like what that was like to be
I
asked?
don't remember that, to be honest. This was when you were in college?
Yeah, this was junior year. I had made a short film. This was about a guy who lost his wife, and it's got that very like piano score.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
It's coming
and
back to me now.
and it's a very Clint Mansell type of score. Where he's like everything's kind of surreal, and he's like seeing his wife in the snow, and it's at
Yep.
night, and he's screaming her name, and he wants her back, and it's you know
Yeah, I think I remember you mentioning this, and when we started talking about it, I got really excited because I saw it as an opportunity to do something completely different
Mhm.
outside of my comfort zone. Um, that's what was most intriguing, I think, about it.
Yeah.
And what I appreciated the most, that you trusted me to do something like that was a little bit outside of my comfort zone. But yeah, I remember that was fun. That's really what kind of got the wheels turning for me in terms of um, not just making hip hop music or whatever, but just
Yeah.
making music in general.
No, that's cool. Because like for me, I don't remember all the specifics, but I always remember the final product, and I love that song. And when it came time to do, a feature film for me, it was just like, I don't know, it just became like another no brainer of like, if Cody's willing to do it, Cody's got the job. Like there was no, you know what I mean? I don't know why, but like in my brain, there just was never a question of it. It was more of like, will he accept versus anything else?
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, when you first approached me about the movie, yeah, I mean, I was psyched. One, because just got to catch up and learn kind of about what you were doing in this project you were working on. But two, again, yeah, just appreciative that you trusted me with this project, especially a full length feature like this. Very exciting, and again, something that was just a new way of thinking. I love learning, and I love kind of exploring new creative art forms and whatnot. So if this was slightly different than what I was doing before, then I was all for it.
Yeah, and I mean, this was I really have to say, like, I now in watching the final product, I really love the score that we came up with. And credit to, like for me, I don't know what it's like. You could be as honest as you want about like what it's like to work for me, because I'm so musically illiterate that like, I'll just layer in um, something that I think is like a good reference. And I'm like, we need something upbeat. I think that's as descriptive as I get, or we need something really like powerful and slow. So I don't know what it's like for you to interpret that and be like, all right, I think I know what he wants.
Yeah, that's a pretty good representation right there. But I will say this was a very collaborative effort. We went back and forth a few times about specific songs and where they were going to go. I think with this project, we started with a number of sort of skeletons of beats or songs that I had, based on sort of your notes and the early cuts of the film. And we sort of went from there. So although we were starting from scratch, I had some pieces in mind that I had either started or knew kind of how to build off of based on your early notes. And we kind of went from there. And I think that was a good process. Just because then we were on the same page, and you could give notes like, yes, this one is great, but it's too slow. I think that was the case for a lot of them. But I will say, that was one of the cool things about this project was the notes I would have either been giving myself or hearing from someone else weren't necessarily about the same they would have been as, if I was putting a rap to it or something. They were the pacing of the film, the way the characters move. That's what dictates the score, the emotion, the vibe. So putting those words in context was really refreshing to me and really helped kind of shape the music.
Yeah, and I think, going back to an earlier point, we were talking about kind of like the classical training. I don't know how conscious we fully were. I mean, we definitely talked about it, but like the motifs kind of throughout, in a way, like people always cite like John Williams for having, a character theme and so forth. And we didn't specifically have like, there's a character called Vincent. We didn't have specifically a Vincent theme necessarily, but whenever repetition of emotion is happening, there were sounds that we went back and forth and slightly altered and so forth, which I thought was, I can't say that I drove, but I really appreciated kind of that direction we ended up at, because I think, it really plays well in terms of having that repetition, that motif.
I completely agree. And I think hearing those repeated motifs is just crucial for the viewer. It connects them to whatever they're seeing. So that was fun to explore with you, is which motifs we wanted to repeat. A lot of it came down to, again, pacing. And I think that was a huge thing for me throughout, was connecting these three storylines, but keeping the film moving the way it did. I mean, it takes place in LA. It's got an urban feel. A lot of the music has a beat, somewhat of a hip hop beat, but I think that helps move things forward. So working with you on figuring out which of those we wanted to repeat, which one of those we wanted to come back to, how fast we wanted things to move, that was really interesting to explore.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things that kind of happened towards the end, we were figuring out what song to kind of create for There's a Prom Scene, and we were kind of going back and forth on that. And what was interesting to me, like, you then made it, and then it also became a perfect song to use somewhere early in the movie as well. And I don't know if you kind of realized that I was ever going to do that, but it for some reason it just very much clicked for me. I was like, let's use this here and there. And I don't know, can you, and I know that was a very kind of different song for you because it was very much different than the rest of the movie. Like, is there a particular song that you found more difficult than the others, or, conversely, like more fun than the others throughout the whole process?
I don't know if there was one that was more difficult than the others. There was one where, and I don't remember what we called it really, but that sort of had to have three movements to it. And whether or not there was three movements to this one song. They all had to have a similar melody and similar motif, but depending on the movement, the drums would drop out, or there would be a piano would come in to indicate that maybe the character was a little bit more sad or something like that. It was really fun trying to connect those. Those were the most interesting for me, I think, because again, I'm being thrown right into the story and having to figure out how I, as a viewer, would then connect, these storylines and these emotions of the characters and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's interesting, like now that you've seen the movie, I always found it interesting. Like, there's so few people that are privileged enough to kind of be in the like final product of it, because like none of the actors or like most of the producers have seen the movie at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, and
okay.
well, I mean, granted, like we were like 2 weeks away from doing like a premiere party.
Right.
And then COVID hit. And so, and part of me is like, well, I could send them the screener, but I also want to get together and have that feel of like, you know what, let's all be together, enjoy the movie. And,
sure.
Our producer, Courtney Stewart, she's like, listen, even if it like ends up going till next year, at the end of the day, like, to have an actor wait a year and a half for their movie to, be at the premiere is really not that unheard of. So you're just really a nice guy. So I was like, all right, thanks. But yeah, and I forget the original train of thought, but like the idea was like, now that I guess you've seen the movie, I don't know, like, yeah, what was it like to watch it from like the first iteration to, now what is more or less the final product?
Well, I think it was, I was proud to have been part of it all. I was impressed with just your work ethic and the work you had done, and really made me realize how much goes into a film. I was so happy to be a part of it, and I don't know, it was cool. I think again, it was the process. It was the collaborative process. You and I going back and forth on what the original vibe of the film was going to be. You would kind of send us screeners and say, you know what, this is changing a little bit. We're going to shorten this. This storyline is going to expand a little bit. And with that came whatever music we were working on. That had to change with it. So it was a living thing, that we were working with. And I don't know, it was a really cool and rewarding process to be a part of.
What is it like how do you kind of approach it when there is like essentially a moving target in that way? Does it, you just kind of like, all right, well, I just have to pick the target for this moment and whatever happens.
Yeah, I think, having worked with you before and knowing you, I knew that, you were open to ideas and we could communicate and bounce ideas off of each other. You were very gracious in sort of looking for opinions as well. So if I said, you know what, I think this motif or this song would fit here, I had this idea for how it would fit. You were at least willing to try it, and if it didn't work, it didn't work. As obviously, ultimately, your call. But I think I don't know. Sort of lost my train of thought there too. But
no worries.
Yeah, I mean, just I love the collaborative aspect of working and bouncing ideas off each other. I think that's just how it works. I think that's how the best art is made. Is having that patience and being willing to try things. Like you said, like I made that song for the prom, and you thought it worked better somewhere else. If that just, that happened because of the sort of the openness to try things and just figure it out. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. This is kind of a completely random question. Do you have a favorite instrument in like music?
Favorite instrument?
Yeah, like would it be the piano? Would it be a guitar? Like just completely curious. I know it's a totally random question.
It's a good question. So I think when I'm listening to music, I always love strings, violin, cello. It always stands out to me, especially when it's in a song that maybe it's a little bit unexpected. A hip hop song, folk song, something like that, where it stands out.
Do you have an example of a song?
So one of my favorite musicians is an artist named Emancipator. He makes sort of instrumental, down tempo really organic sounding music, a lot of live instrumentation. And he has a live, one of the instruments is a live violinist. So for him to include, hip hop, house beats, synths with a live violin, I just think it creates such a cool sound. Having said that, because I have such love for hip hop, drums are important to me as well. And I think, I'm a sucker for a good drum beat.
Fair enough. So like creatively, what do you, I know you're writing and things like that. What else kind of has been keeping you busy? Cause I know like your wife is very creative as well. Do you guys collaborate as well? Or, kind of, stay in your own lanes? So
no, we try to. She's a singer. She's done theater. She was featured on my last song. She did some singing, and it's always a treat to have her singing and utilize her beautiful voice. So I try to do that as much as possible. Have her on there. We've creatively. I'm trying to collaborate with some other friends who play instruments as well. Working with a couple friends who play guitar and bass, and trying to get some live instrumentation and build that into my music as well. My wife and I started doing an Instagram live called Live Poet Society, where we hosted friends and musicians, poets to come on and share their music and art with anyone who would want to listen. And we've done a couple of them, and it was really fun, really successful. And I think it really just beautiful way to get people to share their gifts.
Is there one coming up that you can plug?
We had talked about doing one in July, but
couple days left. Got to get it together.
I know, but I think we weren't sure if the timing was right with everything that's going on.
Yeah.
I think there's a place for people to come together and share music and art and poetry and be collaborative and be together like that. I think that's important, but we're trying to figure out kind of when the right time for that would be. It's hard to know right now,
It is. I mean, in a strange way, like you can almost argue both sides. Like it's not the right time, but at the same time, like not necessarily just an escape, but like I do think people need at least some optimism, something good, and to kind of just a respite for whatever, an hour or two.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, it's not to say like it's a bad thing, and I think ultimately too, like it really also goes down to like, because I've seen the stuff you and your wife post. It's like you guys are like very socially conscious. You got, and so it's not like it, to me, it wouldn't come off as disingenuous. But at the same time, I mean, anyone can judge you for anything ultimately, but I don't know. Yeah. It's something that I think about often,
Yeah. I appreciate what you said there. And I think there's something to that. I think it's hard to know kind of what headspace other people are in as well. If they're ready to share their work, if they're even writing or playing music right now, so it's hard to know. I think we really want to do something like that again. But who knows? Who knows when that will happen.
Well, I just, I certainly trust your guys' judgment and all that. So no, I mean, again, you guys are thoughtful about it, and things like that. So I don't, again, anyone can judge you for anything, but I think you guys are, the intention is there. The intention is pure versus certainly we could use that from other people more so.
Fair.
Are there, how are you kind of keeping inspired? Like what are some of the entertainment that you are, consuming at the moment, if any,
What are we consuming?
You did watch Hamilton, right?
Oh, we've watched Hamilton maybe like 5 or 6 times, to be honest. Phenomenal.
You haven't seen it before, have you?
I hadn't seen it before. We hadn't really heard the music before, to be honest.
Was that on purpose or?
Sort of. Like I said, my wife comes from a theater background, so we would go to shows and we, appreciate the theater world. I think we wanted the music in the show we wanted to see it all at once, I think, because we knew it was such an amazing thing, and it was getting such popularity. I think we were holding out that we would maybe someday see it.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the reason we hadn't listened to the music. But seeing it put together like that it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think it's phenomenal. I've been listening to a lot of folk music, actually.
Oh yeah, who?
Music from the 60s and 70s.
Okay.
A lot of Bob Dylan, a lot of Jefferson Airplane, some Tom Waits I've been listening to. We watch a lot of movies and series. We've been watching a lot of shows on Black Lives Matter. A lot of series on Black Lives Matter. 13th was one that I don't know if you've seen that.
I have, yeah. I rewatched it. It was because it's interesting to rewatch it in like the context of George Floyd and everything.
So we've been trying to just take in as much as we can, learn and listen. I don't know. There's a lot out there. There's a lot that's accessible. We're trying to take it all in.
I think that's
what have you been inspired by recently?
I don't know about inspired by, but I don't know. I think I'm like ready to tear down the system, doing a lot of Rage Against the Machine, Public Enemy, and
sure
things of that nature. But I mean, part of my learning curve is also realize, like, obviously racism is not going to be solved in a matter of months. And so it's this idea that it is going to be a longer term process. And so how do you maintain that same effort and discipline, but on a day-to-day basis where it doesn't, burn you out, because, it's not going to do anyone any good if like I go hard for, let's say, a month and just completely like nose to the grindstone, but it's like, then I'm out of commission for whatever because of burnout.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think like, not to toot my own horn, but before that, like I'm someone that does like to read books, and like even like a year and a half ago, I made a very conscious decision. I was like, I'm reading a lot of white authors in terms of my fiction, and also pretty much nonfiction as well. So I made a deliberate effort to diversify in that sense, and I'd kind of I'd read various things. I didn't write anything, but like even White Fragility, that was a big impact on my life about a year ago.
That's on our list.
Yeah, that's a good one. Obviously that's by a white woman, but I think there's something to be said when it is coming, like I think like breaking, for her, the big thing was like breaking through the noise, because she was a white woman talking about race. I thought that was interesting. Someone that I'm in complete awe of is Melody Hobson. She's actually George Lucas's wife, but she's actually more successful than George Lucas financially. She runs an investment firm. I'm blanking on the name now, but very powerful. And, she talks about race all the time, and it's in a sense, like my new thing is like, you want to be greedy, be greedy. Like having a diverse company is not altruistic. It's literally better for your bottom line. So like, you want to make money? Fine. Be selfish, be greedy, make money. How you do that? You diversify. Simple and plain. Like I just, that's what I'm like, amazes me about capitalism. It's like, you can't even get out of your own way to make more money. So,
yeah. It's a great point.
I don't know. So yeah, some of that stuff, but my friends luckily rein me in as well. Sometimes they're like, all right, you gotta relax. I'm like, all right, note taken.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so that's where I'm at. I'm truly proud of the movie. Like it did feel weird kind of finishing up the movie personally, at a time when things were happening, but I also looked at it like, our cast is pretty much very diverse. Like, we have, we have a black lead, we have, we have a lot of women in there. There's a lesbian storyline. So, I thought I owe it to and obviously, like you and everyone else, like I owed it to you guys to finish it. So I was like, you know what, let me do that. So that was my motivating factor, as opposed to like, oh, it's my movie, let me get it done.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's, I think it's something you should be proud of. It's very well done, very well thought out. And again, having been a part of the process and seeing the collaboration that went on with everyone, I think it's really cool.
Yeah. And as we wrap up, I try to do this for aspiring artists. So is there any message you would like to share to anyone kind of starting off? And, they could be in their 20s, they could be in their 40s, doesn't matter. Like what would be a message that, you kind of want to
for an aspiring artist?
Yeah. Who has this creative drive and, for whatever reason, they just haven't taken that opportunity quite yet.
I would say just do it. I mean, just don't be afraid to explore, learn new skills, learn new things. Some of the work I've done is just from stepping out of my comfort zone and being willing and open to try new things, find new perspectives. I think I think it's important to express yourself and be true to yourself. So, I would just say there's a place for that, and people want to hear what you have to say and want to see what you have to make. And, I think the more art we have and the more creativity we have out there, the better. So
yeah,
just make stuff.
Would you say, this is kind of a deeper topic, but I'm interested on your take. Like, in general, I feel like we would be a lot better of a world if people could get out their creativity. Because I think even if you are a businessman at heart or a scientist, doesn't matter, right? I'm just picking those because they seem antithetical to art. But everyone has this creative expression. And I think even if it's not your professional calling, I think the world would be a better place if people express themselves more and didn't look at it as like, oh, painting is, that's not a macho thing to do or whatever. Like, just no, who cares? Get it out. Therapeutic.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think whether it's you making something yourself or maybe exploring a collaborative process, I think it's all just positive. And I think if anything, it'll give you something to do. It'll maybe be an escape for you or a distraction. But I think also it can just take you places. I think it sort of allows you to see different perspectives, maybe think outside of the box when you wouldn't have before. So, I think creativity and the arts in particular are just massively important, and I encourage anyone to try, even if you've never done them before and you want to try picking up a paintbrush and painting. Go for it. I mean, maybe you'll find something find something out about yourself that you didn't know, or a side of yourself you didn't realize you had, or a passion you didn't know you had. So. Only good can come from it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to just plug your social media real quick? And again, I'll link all the SoundCloud stuff in the website in the description box. But
social media _ abstractions with a K _ That's Instagram. That's my SoundCloud. And my portfolio is Carbon Made, Cody Schram at Carbon Made. So, that's where you can find the stuff I'm making, and hopefully I'll have some new stuff soon.
Awesome. Well, this was a ton of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It was good catching up with you, and again, thank you for allowing me to be a part of that, the journey of making that film with you and being creative. And, you know, I always welcome that. So appreciate it.
I always say to my friends, like, as long as you're willing to work with me, I'll keep going to you. So
Right on, man. Let's do it.